Yo, what up? So I have this question that I came up with just in conversation. I was talking to a friend and I was telling him about what I was doing at the temple, and then I was explaining to him how Chinese folk gods work. Some of them, anyway. And the way they basically work is, you know, dope people who did dope shit, and they had like big kind of spirits, let's say. People would, like, after they passed, would make altars and pray to these people and, ask for stuff. And if what they asked for they got, they would tell people, and more people would pray to this person, and slowly over time they would become a god. That's basically how it works. I found this out when I was researching my tiny little temple. I was looking at one of the gods in the area, and I found out that two gods in the area. I know one of them is very big. They were, yeah, probably one is very big because this family, settlers that came over from China, 300 or 400 years ago, they brought gods with them for protection. And most people had a family god. The family god, again, was just a dope person who did dope shit. And it might not even be directly related to them, but they had the same last name. So they'd bring a family god over and a general, just a god that many people in their village and maybe villages around them all worshipped. But this general god was also a dope person who did dope shit. So they'd bring him over, and it would begin with a tiny little altar, and then it would grow into something bigger. I can show you that temple. Actually, I shot a video there. I'll shoot another one. I can show you the temple I'm talking about later. Today, though, I'm telling my friend all this, and then I just asked him. I was like, if you chose a folk Chinese folk god, or just a folk god, I guess you can take the Chinese part off if you're not Chinese, but using that same system, who would you choose? And my man, he teared up, and it was a very moving question for him. And he had someone that he told me about. And yeah, that's it. I'm asking you this question. You can reply in the comments if you want, or you can just think about, like, oh, who would my Chinese folk god be? And again, if you like the question, if you think about it and you come up with someone cool, then maybe it's a good question you can use on other people. It's a fun question. So, like, to make a long story short, you can just, they were dope people who did dope shit. And then when you think about it, what makes a person, well, I guess there's a lot of things that makes a person a folk god versus just a regular person, or getting rid of the folk and it's just a god. I mean, they don't call them folk gods here. They're just gods. They're not folk gods. They're just gods. But if you think about it, Jesus was a dope dude who did dope shit. And he, more than anyone else, is Jesus the biggest God. And it's funny, now I think about Jesus like a folk god. But the difference is when you've got churches everywhere and you're huge and you're international, and all the people say, no, this is a god, then, well, I guess that's a god. So I'm going to give you two folk gods. Some of you may know who one of them is. Folk gods to me. You know who one of them is from the thumbnail. The other one, you're going to know who he is. Like this first guy I'm showing you, he basically has folk god status, but I think the idea for most people of putting him in a temple or making a temple for him and worshiping him feels strange. But he is without a doubt a folk god. He's right here. My man, Grandmaster Bruce Lee. for me, he's huge because he didn't initially get me into martial arts. The movie Karate Kid did, but if you get older and you learn the history, no Bruce Lee, there's no Karate Kid. He busted the gates open for martial arts movies in the U.S. So Bruce Lee, and he has statues. He has all the stuff around the world. People know who Bruce Lee is. He is without a doubt a dope dude who did dope shit, and his spirit is very, very strong. This is the book Water, Mirror, Echo. It just recently came out. A friend bought it for me. I've only just started reading it. And now we're going to go to my tiny temple, and I'll show you my second folk god, and I'll explain to you why he's a folk god to me. And he is legitimately a folk god right now because he's chilling in a Taiwanese folk / Taoist temple that he's there because I'm managing the temple. So, all right, let's go check that out. I guess I don't have to say peace yet. This was a premature peace. Here you go, my tiny temple. Someone's been dropping off fish equipment. That's just a little side. And someone dropped off this chair and this doll. Just side notes. On to the folk god. And I realized there's two folk gods here. So we have ODB. Okay. And we have Black Panther. The Black Panther Bodhisattva. And this is the ODB Immortal. I said I was going to talk about ODB. So the reason ODB is so special to me is in high school. I was in high school when his album dropped. And I loved the album. I have the album memorized. And I loved, ODB. I'm going to say a character, but it wasn't a character. Like his character. Not him being a character, but his character. How kind of crazy. I'm going to use crazy, and I mean it in the nicest, most respectful way, but how crazy it was. I identified that in high school. I was crazy in high school, so I rocked with ODB. Now later, I got diagnosed. In 1999, I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And that over time made me, love ODB even more because I could see the mental health struggle inside of him, that he had to deal with. And where I'm at, so I just, I got diagnosed. I just loved ODB the whole time because what other artist, other than DMX, I love DMX too, but, has ODB's level of crazy. I'm crazy, so I'm using crazy in a respectful, joyful, I love crazy wise. And if you see him in interviews and you've seen him talk, he's really smart and he understands kind of the bullshit of the world, like I did. So I saw him, I saw his struggle, and I'll add one last thing here. I view myself as a shaman, like a city shaman, trying to figure out shamanism. Normally with shamanism, you'd have a guide. I see ODB in the same category. Like shamans are just kind of like, you don't choose to be a shaman, like you're just born that way. ODB was born that way, and he just didn't have the guidance to really unlock his full potential. But I see his spirit as still out there, unlocking the potential, growing. And this is a part of it. Like that's ODB is here because I vibe with him on a shaman level. And I'll just say something quick about the Black Panther Bodhisattva. Black Panther Bodhisattva is like not Black Panther, the the Marvel character, but he's not that either. It's that Black Panther spirit, the Black Panther Party, wanting to get self-determination. I throw these guys in. It's funny. I asked my dad the other day who he would choose for folk gods, and he chose Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X. And here they are from when I went to Harlem and picked them up. Anyway, I think I gave you enough. If you want to know more, you can leave a comment. Now I can peace out. Peace.